30. 20. 10. 5.
Hello everyone, welcome to this stream on An English View on Porto. I'm your host Matt, the English Portista, and joining me to preview Porto vs Olympiacos in the Europa League this coming Thursday, we have Dennis from the Red Sea podcast, who's the first guest to come on the channel as an opposition fan. Dennis, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing, man. Thank you very much for having me, of course, and I'm looking forward to this whole thing and the game, of course.
Yes. Hopefully, we're going to see a good encounter between both sides. But before we get into the game, I think it's worth starting with Vitor Bruno, because he has been sacked as the manager of Porto as of Monday. I didn't actually expect Porto to act this soon, given that before when things started going wrong in the last 2 to 3 games, he had a good record. But that being said, there were some bad signs even before that period. The 4-1 defeat to Benfica, going out so early in the cup. So there was plus the form in the Europa League. There were signs that things could go wrong, and they have been going wrong. And certainly for me, I got to a stage where I couldn't trust him in the big games. Jose Tavares is coming in on a temporary basis. Any thoughts in regards to the firing of Vitor Bruno?
I've been on the end of sudden coach changes, especially in the latter few years. Very much up until we landed with the savior that was Jose Luis Mendilibar. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not that mistaken, we changed 8 coaches in 2 years. So I massively understand the position you're in, but to play devil's advocate a little bit, it may even sort of favor you with this new manager bounce that clubs usually have.
Yeah. Of course, for those watching live and on the replay, you're welcome to give your thoughts throughout, even if we've long gone on this topic and you've come in late and you feel like you've got something to add, including on Vitor Bruno. But let's start on the Porto side of things. So coming home off a loss to Gil Vicente, at a stage where Porto were in a three-way title race 3 points would keep them within close distance to Benfica and Sporting CP, and the week before, both Sporting and Benfica had failed to win, and albeit Porto had their game called off, but then when the game was rearranged, they'd lost. Then another loss, with both ultimately ending it into Vitor Bruno sacking. But the last game is Gil Vicente, and of course, thoughts are welcome throughout from the chat. But I probably would have said this a lot on my stream that I did on Sunday, but it was not a good watch. In the first half, Gil Vicente just looked more threatening whenever they had chances. Porto had their chances, but just didn't look that convincing. And throughout the game, the finishing was poor. And defensively, that's one of the other issues of the game. All 3 goals were avoidable. The first goal, I won't blame Otavio too much, because although he could have done better with intercepting, he also had to bear in mind the goal scorer who he had to mark, so he couldn't just do ball watching. It was a collective error in the sense of our right back João Mario was ghosting. Perez was dragged out. Gonzalez could have done much better in midfield to help stop. And the second goal, schoolboy defending errors, disorganized. Why is one of our attackers, Danny Namaso Loda, who's my height, 5'11", doing marking at the back post? Of course, he was beaten in the air, and then there was a penalty which the tackling should have been done. Otavio should have done much better with. So of course, other things like looking very underwhelming, losing their head at times. So yeah, it's not been a good momentum, especially as December looked quite promising. So yeah, I don't know how much of Porto you've been watching, Dennis, but what have you thought about Porto this season?
I've tried to do my research at the very least, and I think I was about as shocked as you were with the coach's sacking, but as you said, maybe it even had to be done. I've mostly been watching you guys in the Europa League, as I've been watching as much of the table as I can. And honestly, as different as your seasons may have looked, this game is as much as it is unpredictable, it's more or less as important as well, because the winning team, given there is a winning team, is probably in the run for the top 8, and the losing team, I think, just loses most hope for instant qualification to the round of 16. So it will certainly be very even season changing for either team.
Yes, thanks for that. And also to note, Nico Gonzalez and Samu were both given red cards in the game. So I expect they're going to have, with that in mind, I expect they'll have heavy involvement in this upcoming game against Olympiacos, which we will get to later in the stream. Gonzalez's red card. I know he does catch the ankle of the Gil Vicente player, but honestly, I don't. I don't know. I don't even think that's a yellow card. It might not even be a foul because when you actually watch it, he's driven the ball, takes maybe a bit of a heavy touch, so the ball goes a bit too far ahead of him. So therefore, he has to stretch his boot in order to control the ball, and the boot slides on the ball and hits the ankle. No, wait. Yeah, I think it was the ankle of the Gil Vicente player. And then Samu, of course, was later subbed off for arguing a lot with the referee after full time. What I'll also mention from that last game is the finishing, which I've touched upon, and how that needs to be improved come the Olympiacos game, because the goal came from Gonzalo Borges, who has been one of the most ineffective Porto players this season, and he signed last season and barely played. He did score a nice goal, did score a nice disallowed goal, but he also had a terrible shot that actually went out for a throw-in. He was also put on free kick responsibilities right at the end and had nowhere near. Otavio shot missed. Vieira as well. So that's something that definitely needs to be fixed come the Olympiacos game. But let's go on to Olympiacos because that's a big reason why I brought you on here. From my point of view, I watched. I did watch Olympiacos' last game. I did intend to watch the cup game against Panathinaikos, but I didn't get around to it. And also watched the previous Europa League game against FC Twente. From my point of view, when I watched that Europa League game against FC Twente, I saw the attack wasn't there from both sides, but I also got to give credit to FC Twente for defending very, very well away from home, especially having come off a few defeats, including at home to Lazio. And I'd also saw the game on Sunday, which they just play a relegation threatened team, but yeah, Olympiacos, from my point of view from that game, they look dangerous at set pieces. But I'm also wondering, is the service there for Alcabi? So I'll bring you in here now. So what have you thought of Olympiacos this season? What can you tell people that haven't been watching much? And also some of their past games in the Europa League.
Honestly, been a very chaotic season, of course, coming off the high of our most historic victory in the club's history, coming off winning the Conference League last season. We went into the summer with very high hopes that weren't really fulfilled. We went on to lose our captain of many, many years to Saudi, our most important winger again to Saudi. And in general, there were a lot of outs and not as many needed ins for Olympiacos, which is the case now. Also, we've made two winter transfers. None of them have come in. Both have stayed out on loan. Of course, you would have probably seen us bring in William in the summer, which didn't work out at all. He's already been gone for about a month. We terminated his contract. A player that you're probably familiar with, Sergio Oliveira, is
Oh yeah.
also has also been a massive flop for this club. We're also looking to get him gone to bring in a player that was on loan last season at us, which you are probably also very aware of. Talking about Andre Porta, who is very loved here after his 6 month spell last season. Regarding the game on Sunday, you'd be very fooled because those set pieces on Sunday were probably our best in the last year and a half. Set pieces have generally been a massive weakness for Olympiacos, especially converting them on the attack, not that much defending from them. And hopefully, it was a good sign of a switch being flipped because, as you said, you thought that set pieces were a strength of the team. Well, really, they aren't. Should the game have been more comfortable on Sunday? Yes, it should have, because as much as we created a lot of chances, as you said with Porto, we were missing the conversion as well. The game should have had a few more goals on our side. Of course, coming off a high is Jolakis by saving another penalty, his second of the season, having saved one in the Europa League already as well. I can't remember from who. I think it was in the Braga game. But the most notable absences I can name is, of course, Santiago Esse, who has been a vital part of our midfield for a season and a half now, and Zelson Martins, who will more than likely be protected due to an ongoing injury. Olympiacos in general this season, of course, it being the 100th year anniversary of the club in March as well, are aiming very high, and even in the end of the transfer window, we're looking to cover the depth problems we have. And in general, we're in contention. We're first in the league quite comfortably. And in general, we're in contention for a very, very good run in the Europa League and a domestic double. So you're facing a club with very high expectations this season, but a club that's quite hurt depth wise.
Thanks for that. Somehow I forgot to bring up the penalty save right at the end. That also showed that you have a keeper that can be clutch and important at moments like that. Perhaps when Porto get a penalty, we shouldn't be overly confident. You've talked about some players. One I don't think you mentioned that I think Porto fans will know about is David Carmo. You mentioned centre back. Didn't quite get enough games to be a regular at Porto. Of course, he went out on loan to Olympiacos last season and was part of that Conference League winning team, and then has come back to you on loan, having been transferred to Nottingham Forest. How's he been doing, and what impact has he had?
I really wish I could say way more positive things about David Carmo, because you and I both know his quality. He was loved last season, he was clutch last season. A play that I can immediately bring back is in the final minutes of extra time. In the final, he put his body on the line to prevent a late goal from Fiorentina, especially it being after El Gabi had already scored. And in general, he was a complete wall in the back and another vital part of that Conference League winning squad. But this season, his mind has been elsewhere. He has been performing in the big games. He is showing up in the big games, but there are complaints from a lot of fans, including me, that it seems like his mind is more on Nottingham than on us, and he's not really been showing up in the quote unquote smaller games. Notable thing to mention, there was a game, I can't remember for the life of me now, but there was a league game where he got subbed out in the 23rd minute because of how bad he was playing. And to be totally honest with you, I don't know if he'll start on Thursday.
Ooh,
And, and I don't know if I'd start him, but that may be more of a personal opinion.
okay then. Yeah, let's get into the game itself. Porto home form in the Europa League has been 1 point, that being against Manchester United, and two nil wins against at home against Midtjylland and Hoffenheim, respectively. The away form, on the other hand, has been bad. We've just one on draw and two losses. However, luckily, Porto are home for this game, and Olympiacos, having also not only come off the back of drawing 0-0 with Twente, but they've also beat Braga 3-0, so another Portuguese opposition. Let's hope things don't pan out quite like that way from our point of view. Currently, a few places above Porto in the competition. But one other thing that it does come to my attention, and we had a similar scenario when we played Lazio. So, a few days after playing Lazio away, we then had Benfica away in the El Clasico, and in this case, you've got your biggest rivals, Panathinaikos, at home. With the speculation that your team will most likely be prioritizing the derby, what do you think the preparation and the the style of play and the approach? I mean, we'll go to lineups more later, but how do you think the derby on Sunday is going to affect Olympiacos for the game on Thursday?
I'll go back to focusing on the depth problem that I mentioned because rotation has been very hard this season, and with Zelson's, as I mentioned, Zelson Martins will be protected for the derby, and a lot of fans are wanting to prioritize the derby over the game on Thursday. My personal opinion is that while some either forced or not forced rotation will probably happen, I don't think we will come to, for example, play for a draw. I think Mendilibar will plan accordingly to how he usually plans, especially for European games. And our mind will be on the Porto game. I don't think anyone will be distracted or anything. Mendilibar has done that very well this season to make sure the team goes game by game and not just stray away from any competition to focus on another thing. About the lineups, as you said, we'll go into it later, but as mentioned, I am expecting a bit of rotation and a bit of a difference to our usual starting 11.
That's interesting to hear. From a Porto point of view, with a new manager, well, a temporary manager, in some way it's going to be a fresh start for the players. Being the home team, I expect, and I'm sure the fan base will expect, Porto to be having most of the chances. Um, if Vitor Bruno was here, what I wouldn't be sure or of him doing is whether he puts what he's done for some of the lesser strong against some of the lesser stronger teams is put a winger Galeno at left back in order to who then add an extra attacker. Not something I will expect so much with also the right back situation in mind. But I expect Porto to have most of the ball, most of the possession. I would expect Olympiacos to be organised. The set piece goal that Olympiacos conceded, I think, will give Porto some confidence that they can threaten Olympiacos in that way as well as in open play. So there is that. If I'll check, I believe from memory, Porto don't have a like as much. Yeah, they don't have as much of a big game compared to Olympiacos on Sunday. But I'll just clarify who it's against. But yeah, but still, even though they are desperate for a win on Sunday, they're probably in more of a position to go for a stronger lineup, given that they'll also be at home and they won't have to travel this weekend. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, Santa Clara at home on Sunday, which to be fair, they are quite high in the tables, but still. Any other thoughts in regards to the previewing of the game?
One other thing that I did want to go ahead and mention really is that the reason I'm more or less confident about this game, at least from the minimal things I've seen from Porto, you can gladly correct me on that. As you said, you expect your team to play with possession to more or less run more of a mid block to high press. I think that's expected from Porto, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been quite hard to understand what Vitor Bruno's defensive structure was, but I do definitely, but certainly in like the bigger games when we had Sergio Conceição, we would play in mid blocks, and yes, we pretty much do that. Have the defense with a fairly high line, but not super high. Yeah, continue.
That's, in my eyes at least, that's a positive because that's more or less the reason we were at the top of our game against Braga as well. We are Mendilibar's game has way more freedom, and the roster that we have has way more freedom when facing a pressing team and a mid block team rather than a team that sits back. That's the reason we've struggled a bit more in the Super League, especially in the start. It's because most teams play a low block and they sit back and wait to run on the counter. And while that kind of reverses and we get more of a chance to run on open play, as you, I'll go back to what you said earlier, especially Ayoub El Kabi, given those runs behind a high defensive line, it's produced 99% of the time.
Yeah, thanks for that. And that'll definitely make some sort of a difference to Olympiacos's approach. But it's something that they would have come across earlier in the Europa League campaign. Let's go on to the lineups we think will come about, and if you want to also give the lineups you personally want to see, then I will welcome that as well. But I'll start off with Porto, as they are the home team. Diogo Costa, barring any sort of injuries, will start and goal. First choice goalkeeper and the captain. The right back, normally it would be Martin Fernandes. He's been the more positively consistent performer, whereas João Mario does have some good attacking traits, but has been liable defensively. The goal against the two first half goals against Manchester conceded against Manchester United were clear examples of that. But that being said, Martin Fernandes wasn't in the matchday squad. I haven't seen a clear, obvious announcement that he's going to that he's fit or not. But I'm sure he would have at least been in the squad. So, but with the fact that we don't really know, I'm going to say that João Mario is going to play at right back, and might actually suit Porto if we need the fullbacks to be more supporting in the attacks. Of course, Nohan Perez and Otavio are going to be most likely going to be the centre backs. They've been the main pairing. You never know, Diallo might show up, but I would expect it to be Perez and Otavio. Francisco Mora is the main left back, but hasn't played a lot because Vitor Bruno has played Galeno at left back a lot during the beginning and fairly often recently. But I don't expect the interim manager to do anything like that. So I think Francisco Mora will start, and then in midfield, I think Nico Gonzalez will start, given that he is suspended this weekend. I think he will play a full 90 minutes. I'm thinking that Porto will play a 4-2-3-1. I'm going to say Alan Varela will start over Steven Eustáquio. Alan Varela used to be Porto's main midfielder earlier in the season and last season, but for whatever reason in December Varela missed a game and then just never really was fancied to get back in, apart from the initial game against Nacional, which got called off for the fog. So with that in mind, I think Gonzalez is going to play a full 90 minutes. I think Varela will start, especially as it will be a free hit for him, and we'll see Eustáquio get subbed on. And then for the attackers, similar with the other right back situation, Pepe was not in the Pepe from Brazil. That is, he wasn't in the squad against Gil Vicente, and I haven't seen like an indication of if he's injured or if he will be available or when he's coming back if he is injured. So I'm not sure what the situation on him is, but if he's fit, he's got a good chance at starting. But I'm not going to over speculate too much. So I'm going to say someone who I don't think is good enough, but he had some kind of impact on the weekend. Gonzalo Borges, I think he'll be on the right. And then in attacking midfield, most likely option is probably going to be Fabio Vieira. Could see Rodrigo Mora in there, but he's also could also be on the left. And then Galeno's another name that I think would be out wide if he plays. He got subbed off at half time, but he's been like one of Porto's main players in the last 2 seasons and even this season as well. I think Galena's going to be on the left. I was wondering about Fabio Vieira at attacking midfield, but I think given that Rodrigo Mora was having an impact before January and that he didn't start against Jefferson, I think he's going to come in. So I'll say Borges on the right, Rodrigo Mora in the middle. I'll say Galeno will keep his spot on the left, and of course Samu Omaridian as the striker. I expect he'll play a full 90 minutes, having been a effective goal scorer in the season, and also won't be playing on the weekend. But hopefully we don't see Borges playing unless he's going to rejuvenate. Vieira and Estaquia could also come in the team. So that's my lineup. I'll just quickly round it off. Costa in goal, Gianmario at right back, centre backs Nuhan Perez and Otavio, left back Francisco Mora, centre midfielders Alan Varela and Nico Gonzalez, Gonzalo Borges on the right of the 4-2-3-1, Rodrigo Mora in attacking midfield, Galeno on the left, and Samu at striker. So, Dennis, what do you think the lineup will be for Olympiacos?
The certainty, of course, of the team is Kostas Zolakis in goal. Down the left, it will be Francisco Ortega. It will be Panos Rechos as one of the centre backs. My doubt here, as I said earlier, is whether David Carmo starts or it's Lorenzo Pirola that gets the go-ahead. But due to familiarity with Porto alone, I think that Carmo will get the edge over Pirola, but I can't say that for sure in the slightest. Down the right is a player that I realize you're probably also very familiar with, and that's Costinha, who's been amazing for us. The center midfield, the duo in the central midfielders with Santiago Eze having to miss the game will probably be Christos Mouzakitis and Dani Garcia, with I guess I think Chiquinho will be at the 10, with Chiquinho or Babis Kostulas at the 10, with Rodinei down the right midfield, the right wing position, and Christopher Velde down the left. And of course, striker will be Ayoub El Kabi.
Yeah, thanks for that. Of course, El Kabi will be. He's one of the main players for Olympiacos and will be the biggest threat to us. Yeah, would you also go along with that lineup, or is there any players that you think you would personally put in there, even if you don't think they would go in?
I do not think we have much of a choice lineup wise because of depth, but I'd certainly look to take some more of the youth squad like Bakulas, like Papacanelos. As you know, our youth squad was the first to win the UEFA Youth League from Greece as well, with Mouzakitis and Kostoulas being deemed as some of the greatest talents in the country for the last many years and have integrated themselves in the starting 11 for us. So, as far as starting 11 goes, as much as I wouldn't want someone like Christopher Velde to start, I think he has to, but depending on how the game goes, I'd certainly bring some youth off the bench.
Yep. Thanks for sharing that with us. We're going to get on to predictions now, and I'm having a look at the Europa League table, and if Olympiacos can win, they can go as high as 7th, where Manchester United are. They could possibly surpass them on goal. Actually, Rangers are also playing, so I think Olympiacos can get up to 8th, because that's where Rangers are, and Manchester United are just above them. And as for Porto, they're currently in 18th, just outside the knockout playoff seeded section. Currently on 8 points, and a win can take them to, I believe, it could get them to 11 points. Yes, but what I meant to say was could get them to 8th if results were to go their way. But chances are a win would most likely take them to the seeded section of the knockout playoffs. For those who are watching live and in the replay, do give your score predictions in the live chat or in the comments. I'll go to you, Dennis. What do you think the score will be?
Did you even say score?
Yeah.
What did you say? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I haven't given my
Completely missed.
prediction.
Ah,
I haven't
okay.
given
Yeah,
my
you did.
prediction yet,
Okay.
but let's go to you first.
As I said earlier, it looks like a must-win game for both teams if they want to have any hope of finishing within the top 8 and avoiding an extra round in the knockouts. I wish it didn't have to be a must-win game for us, but as you pointed out as well, we are coming off two back-to-back nil-nil draws against Steaua and Twente. So, given all we've said, the importance of the game, and keeping in mind the derby on Sunday for us, I'll go for a very narrow win going our way with 1-0 for us.
Ooh, I could definitely I could definitely imagine that happening. It's definitely not something I'll rule out. Mario predicts a 2-2 draw. For me, the sooner Porto can get the first goal, the easier it will be. I've been deciding between two different scores, but I'll go on the more optimistic side, and the fact that we've got a new voice in the dressing room that can at least help the players. I think it'll be somewhat similar to the games we had previously that we won, but we looked average. But the difference is, I think Porto will be a bit better, and the opposition will be better than what we faced. I am going to say, I mean, I think barring any like bad defensive mistakes, I think I could be quite confident in a clean sheet. So I do have to bear in mind. I mean, I think I'm fine on most. I think I trust in most of the defense, and maybe I mean, João Mario could make a mistake, but I think I'll go for Porto 2, Olympiacos 0. Just wondering about a 1-0, and I'm even considering a 2-1 now. I think it's going to be a competitive game, but I think Porto will have enough to get a respectable victory. So yeah, I think I'll go with a 2-1. I think that we might concede from a defensive error or from a set piece. But yeah, I think Porto will have enough to win. Any other thoughts in regards to the game or both teams?
Seems like we're both confident in our goalkeepers, but not as much in our defense, which is a very weird similarity, but it is there. But I think that I've said all about I had to say. It is certainly a very important game for both teams, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I'll I don't given how the form was beforehand, I won't like over expect Porto to go like top 8, but I will take I'll take the seeded section as of the playoffs minimum, and if we do get to the top 8, then great. Dennis, thanks for joining me and giving extra knowledge to myself and the channel, the community on Olympiacos. Where can people find you and the Red Sea podcast?
I'm more or less everywhere. My YouTube, of course, is the Red Sea Podcast. If you type Red Sea Podcast either on Instagram or on Twitter, I should pop up. But if you go to my YouTube and check the description of any video, all the socials will pop up: YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, and even the new thing, Blue Sky. So yeah, go check out my YouTube, and then if you like what you see, subscribe and follow through to any other socials.
Yep, thanks for that. His links in the description for his YouTube links in the description and Spotify link. I will just give a quick apology, Maria. I'm seeing a small screen, so I thought your second day was a no. But
that's my girlfriend, actually.
Oh yeah, yes. Thanks for joining, and Dennis, thanks for being here. We're gonna wrap up now, unless you've got any other thoughts.
I think we've covered it off.
Yep, fair enough. Yeah, thanks to everyone who's been watching on the replay and on live. Thanks Maria for giving your score prediction, and to you, Dennis, for helping out on the stream. I will be doing some sort of review of the game, whether it be shorts, a live video. Haven't quite decided that, but I may possibly go live given that the game is at early kickoff. But thanks to everyone again. All support and interactions are very much appreciated and welcome. And may the best team win on a Thursday. And best of luck in your game against Panathinaikos as well.
Thank you. And of course, as you said, may the best team win, and may we see a good football game.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, we'll get some entertainment out of it in some form or fashion. But thanks to everyone for being here, watching, and giving your interactions. And until the next time, Forza Porto.